We have 3 honorary categories this evening: Pi Gamma Mu, Social Sciences Honors, and the Leaders in Service Hall of Fame. And we're going to begin with our induction and honor cords for Pi Gamma Mu. So we at Southwestern College hold the distinction that this honor society was started as a joint effort between Southwestern College and the College of William and Mary in 1924. So this is the part of the job I was talking about in the beginning, equipping students for a meaningful life. It takes a lot of work in and outside the classroom, and we are very pleased to be honoring students who are studying and preparing to be persons who want to make a meaningful contribution in our world. So on behalf of your professors, I want you to know that even though much of the hard work you're doing academically is private, and it goes unseen to us, and it goes unseen to your fellow students, we, your professors, we know you're doing the work. We recognize it in the work that you do show us, and we promise to continue to challenge you to stretch your intellectual skills further in the next work we assign to you. We've invited those students who have met the criteria of 20 hours of social sciences credit, maintaining a 3.0 average, and tonight we are happy to acknowledge those who have accepted our invitation. This is Halima Faith, and she is the current president of Pi Gamma Mu, and she's going to assist me in inducting our new members. So students, when I call your name, if you'll please come forward and accept your membership certificate and pin. Troy Ford. Aiden Goodrich. Anna Mankowski. Ali Petrovich. Sydney Shields. Ashley Smith. Jerlicia Thompson. And Tana Tyler. Welcome all of you. Pi Gamma Mu. Pi Gamma Mu also has the privilege of inviting honorary members, and Pi Gamma Mu would like this year to extend that invitation to our newly inaugurated 19th president of Southwestern College, Dr. Brad Andrews. Of our Pi Gamma Mu students are also graduating this spring and heading out to take their next places in the world. So if those students will step forward as I call your name. Taylor Locke. Taylor is graduating with a BA in psychology and a minor in criminal justice. After graduation, he hopes to become a police officer in Arizona. Dr. Chris Barker is presenting his honors cord. Halima Faith is graduating with a BA in psychology and a minor in biology. After graduation, she will be attending Washburn University to earn a master's degree in clinical psychology. And Dr. Carrie Lane is presenting her cord. Brenna Truey. Brenna is graduating with a BA in English and minors in psychology and leadership. After graduation, she will be attending Emporia State to work towards a master's in library science. Ryan Crow. Ryan is graduating with a BA in English Literature and a Bachelor of Liberal Arts and Sciences, which is made up of 3 minors: leadership, history, and criminal justice. After graduation, Ryan will be attending law school. He just found out he has 3 choices. He's been accepted so far. So Dr. Stephen Woodburn is presenting his court. And our 5th graduate is Lindsey Graber. Lindsey is graduating with a BA in Religion and Philosophy. She plans to attend King's College in London next year for a master's in theology. Dr. Jacob Goodson is presenting her court. Okay, you all can have it. And Lindsey, I'm going to have you stay up here. Our second category of honorees this evening is for the Social Sciences Honors Program. The Social Sciences Division launched an honors program in the fall of 2014. The program has enrichment opportunities and requires 6 honors courses and an honors capstone project or thesis. Lindsey Graber is the first student to successfully satisfy the requirements of the Social Sciences Honors Curriculum. We're happy to have Lindsey's parents here with us. Charles and Ruth are over here. Welcome. She's joining her this evening, and I invite her advisor, Dr. Jackson Leisure, Assistant Professor of Religion, to join her. Dr. Leisure has guided her through her honors thesis, which is entitled The Limits of God as Father, Reclaiming Feminine Language of God. Her argument urges the use of both genders when describing God, not to create binaries within God's nature, but to show how God somehow encompasses both genders and stands apart from gender. This ensures that theological language continues to operate analogically and that God is not limited to a single category. Congratulations, Lindsey. So as we look forward to seeing how these young adults will engage in the world beyond SC, think about a few words from Woodrow Wilson. He gave this at a college address. You are not here merely to make a living. You are here to enable the world to live more amply, with greater vision, and with a finer spirit of hope and achievement. You are here to enrich the world. You impoverish yourself if you forget this errand. Tonight, the highlight of our honorary recognitions are our 3 persons who have not forgotten this errand in their life. We are thankful for their lives of service that help all of us here get a glimpse of what living amply and with great vision and a spirit of hope and achievement for the world looks like. The Southwestern College Leaders in Service Hall of Fame for the Social Sciences was established in 2009 to honor alumni and friends who have taken their education and enriched our world by offering their time and their talent as leaders in service to others. It is right and fitting that we take time to recognize these worthy individuals for their efforts, and the college is so privileged to be a part of this honor. I'd like you to call your attention to these beautiful glass creations on the table beside me. These are our one-of-a-kind awards that we'll be giving annually to our Leaders in Service Hall of Fame inductees. and they are handcrafted by Scott Hartley, class of '97, a Southwestern science major who went on to use his artistic talents and his knowledge of science to become a master glassblower. We are fortunate to be able to give these unique gifts to our inductees to permanently remind them of their place in our Hall of Fame. So I will introduce the inductees one by one. President Andrews will shake your hand and give you an opportunity to make some remarks, and then Isely will help you make sure you get carefully back with this beautiful glass sculpture to your place. Our first inductee is Randy Eshelman. Randy is a deputy with International Affairs and Policy for the United States Strategic Command. He led U.S. operational delegation during Six-Nation negotiations for the expansion of geosynchronous satellite constellation that resulted in the largest ever cooperative agreement for a space capability and a $620 million U.S. cost avoidance. Randy is a leadership fellow, one of only 10 people handpicked out of nearly 1,300 eligible by Senior Executive Board for inaugural graduate level fellowship between U.S. Strategic Command and University of Nebraska. Fellowship designed to enhance demonstrated leadership skills with focus on increased responsibilities at U.S. Strategic Command and in the Department of Defense. Welcome, Randy.
So it's an iPad. It's only 16 gigs, so it's not a lot to say. So if I can get it to show up here correctly, apologize. Dr. Andrews, Dr. Rude, Ms. Dockery, past inductees, fellow 2016 Hall of Fame inductees, Southwestern faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends. What a great honor to stand here and humble appreciation for this honor from my alma mater. My alma mater. That sounds great to me, to be able to say, my alma mater. As a poor preacher's son, a child who rebelled often and often very dramatically, and an eventual high school dropout, being able to say my alma mater at an event where I'm receiving an award such as this kind of takes my breath away. As a knuckleheaded youth of the 80s, I realized that being an undereducated roofer was not my calling, and working on roofs in the summer and the winter in Nebraska isn't a way to have all that much fun. I decided I should at least start off with a ticket to Europe, see what that place was all about. So I joined Uncle Sam's Army. I learned to jump out of airplanes, and I know we're close to Wichita, but there's no such thing as a perfectly good airplane. And I was led by great men and women and had the opportunity to lead several others. Along the way, I took university courses, went in where I could, sometimes even in combat zones. It still amazes me at how American universities and colleges follow the military around and go to places in harm's way to provide higher education to military service members. Southwestern is one of those, and I appreciate it. So after 6 or 7 different colleges and universities, with credits strewn from Kansas to Uzbekistan, I finally found Southwestern. The folks in the professional studies program, willing and able to work with me when it came to credit transfers and offered the classes I needed at both undergrad and graduate levels to work around my rather eclectic schedule. Again, my appreciation for the professional studies program at SC is unbounded. Equipped with an SC undergraduate degree in computer technology, followed closely by a master's in business, I was able to transition smoothly from active duty Army to a career with the Department of Defense, and I was fortunate to serve on that team for that space capability. After meeting my lovely wife, Suji, who is here with me this evening, I took the next logical step from satellite systems to Korean food. I now have the pleasure of working with my wife day to day, friend really, in a business where we commercialize and market clean-labeled, authentic Korean food to the U.S. consumer. I can easily state, because I've seen the other sides of the many collegiate fences, that without Southwestern College, that without the SC Professional Studies Department, I could not have accomplished these things. I stand here today, because of a lot of hard work over many years, but also because of Southwestern's dedication to professional studies and to the American military. Thanks all of you for sharing this with me this evening. I'm humbled to receive this award. Thank you. You do have to help me with this. Okay, great.
Our next inductee is Barbara Johnson Isely, class of 1964. Barbara has had careers in 2 fields, music education and sociology. Her 2 degrees in music education led her to interest in research. Her MA and PhD in sociology led her to international work as a researcher and planning team member responsible for considering needs of people. She was particularly concerned about sensitizing other team members to the needs of marginalized people. After retiring from a career as an international consultant in sociology, she returned to her first love of teaching music and continues to volunteer to teach music in India. She started in 1999 and continues to lead children's choirs ages 7 to 17 in India at a medical college community, working with 4 choirs, and in 2012 expanded to include medical college students and adults who asked her to start a singing class for them. She taught violin and viola. She designed and conducted singing workshops in cooperation with the Ceylon Bible Society in Sri Lanka. She created a training module to use music with children affected by trauma and uses songs that relate Christianity to social and economic justice, peace, environmental concerns, simple lifestyle, and the value of diversity. Her research and teaching experience, plus professional writing and music compositions, have made a difference in many lives across the globe.
Thank you. Just come down. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Andrews. Thank you. I'm glad to greet you, Carl, Leora, who have known me for 66 years, and my cousin Susan has come here. I am particularly honored because the last time I was here, I was accepting this award for my father, Lyman Johnson. He was one of those whose photo popped up a while ago. I appreciate particularly Dr. Joe Sims for nominating me and deeply regret that he's no longer with us. Much of how I approach life, teaching and doing music and sociology is founded on his openness on what he guided me to learn. He and Grace Sellers in the music department, both of them, particularly changed my life by treating me justly, giving me love, and opening my vision to what I could be. Without them, my life would have been quite different. My career has been and is international. For the past 25 out of 40 years, I have worked and volunteered in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Thailand, Jordan, Nigeria, Ghana. I returned to Christian Medical College, Vellore, India, in 3 weeks. There are opportunities for students and others to volunteer there. My cross-cultural focus started here before I remember, when Japanese American students lived in our home. My father had gotten them freed from the relocation centers to attend Southwestern. As a student at Southwestern, I learned new perspectives from students from nations still under colonial rule or recently liberated. For the first time while here, I realized the U.S. press has limitations because it does not present a full range of viewpoints from beyond our borders. In 1966 and 77, a Southwestern graduate and his wife Victor and Elizabeth Sharing, many of you may know Elizabeth, introduced me to village life in India, and I fell in love with Indian villages. For me, Southwestern was the link to a whole wide world. In 1961, Joe Sims wrote for Religious Emphasis Week here, "All life involves growth, physical, social, emotional, intellectual, spiritual." So I want to share with you some stories of intellectual perspectives growing with new experiences and how perceptions can weave together compassion with social and economic justice and thus lead to spiritual growth. The stories come primarily from my 25 years as sociologist and music educator in Asia and Africa. In coastal Ghana, I helped plan a flood control project. On my social research team of 25 wonderful young people was Emmanuel, a recent graduate civil engineer from an interior town. One day, as the expatriate team drove down to meet the city managers, we saw tall Emmanuel gazing up in wonder at a new huge overpass. Later, he told me the scale and grandeur of the technology were staggering. To see a coastal fishing village in the flood-prone area, I chose Emmanuel to walk with me as translator and engineering advisor. We walked on riverside paths, crossed and recrossed the river on rickety bridges, discussed with the villagers flood damage and possible effects of various flood control measures on village life, on their fishing industry, activities of net and boat repair, and fish drying. Emmanuel pointed out engineering alternatives, limits, and challenges. As we walked back to the road, he said, "Mama Barbara, today new experiences have helped me see in a new way. My eyes have opened. I have seen my own country for the first time." This was a high point for me, to observe someone seeing in a new way, recognizing all people's humanity, and that serving their needs must be the unquestioned purpose of technology. As the only social scientist on an agricultural extension planning team in Jordan, and as on other projects I served on, I was to keep the team aware of social factors relevant to the project, especially the lives of small farmers, the poor, and women. The U.S. team, like most academics I worked with at that time, viewed agriculture as a man's work, especially in the U.S., and must be more so in developing countries which they thought must restrict women more than the U.S. Unfortunately, I have no time to go into this misconception. But they knew that there was no need to consider women in agricultural extension. Now in Jordan, land is evenly divided in each generation between all sons. In each ensuing generation, the land plots get smaller. But the house and the garden surrounding it go to the oldest daughter. In the gardens, women grow olives, fruits, vegetables, goats, chickens, wheat for family consumption. Gardens are important for the balanced nutrition of many people. Many gardens were larger than the field plots, but fields were the focus of agricultural extension. One team member was stubbornly convinced when we arrived that women in Jordan have nothing to do with agriculture. At the end of our time, he said, "I have been in Jordan 8 times, and I never saw the gardens." He thanked me for opening his eyes to the gardens. He and Emmanuel were open to new experiences that changed their perspectives. We can be utterly blinded by our limited experience and our convictions. We can also be utterly blinded by our fears. Fears can define what we see. In Sri Lanka, at a preschool a mile from the fighting border between government and rebel forces, I pulled out my camera to take a photo. One small boy went into hysterics. He saw a gun in my hand. His experience of war shaped what he saw. Fear blocked his ability to see the camera. When we fear, we do not see clearly. For many years, I have felt that many people in the United States are extremely fearful. Other people abroad also see us as a fearful people. Fear also limits what we can do. In my current work of 16 years of leading choirs and singing workshops in India and Sri Lanka, I have worked with more than 700 children, youth, and adults. I learned quickly that fear limits singing. We toss balls, and we make a sound that goes up and down, woo, at high pitches. In fact, I increased my range by working with kids and choirs. Adults and older children who have been told they cannot sing often can easily make that whoo sound. But the idea in their minds that they cannot sing makes it difficult to make that same sound when it is defined as singing. Fear prevents reaching the high notes. Fear prevents the best singing they can do. Gatekeeping, or telling people they cannot do something, creates fear. Fear is not an effective way to see things accurately or teach music or any subject. Once a professor told a student who had struggled to type a term paper on a borrowed typewriter that if the paper were retyped neatly, an A would be given. For except for the slightly messy but legible typing, the coursework, including the paper, was A quality. So what did the student face as a choice? To spend hours trying to retype? If the typewriter could be borrowed again, actually the owner might need to use it. Or study for other courses. Or pay to have it retyped. Is this not buying the A? Inability to afford a typewriter or pay a typist would be economic barriers to the high grade. Very kind persons, while intending to be caring, can still perpetuate injustice when they do not see the systemic factors that cause injustice. And those social scientists among us will understand what I mean by systemic factors that cause injustice. Clutching their view of their profession or their world, they refuse to see their role in maintaining injustice. They want to see themselves as loving, don't we all? Fears of the new, fears of the discomfort of change, fears of seeing one's own participation in wrongdoing are walls we build around our minds and ourselves. We need to be loving in every moment, but compassion must be informed of the existence and causes of injustice. We need courage to grow in strength to admit our role in perpetuating injustice, to shed fears of the different, of what is beyond our experience or beyond our borders, to step out of the comfort zone mentally and physically, to take in new information, to have new experiences, to see things we have not seen. This is what I learned at Southwestern. This is what I've tried to do. Thank you.
Our third inductee is Madeline Southard. Madeline's father died before she was born, and her mother died when she was only 16 years old. She and her older sister were raised by their maternal grandmother in Rock, Kansas, until Madeline went to college at Southwestern. And then she went to college at Northwestern University. She was the founder of the American Association of Women Ministers in 1919, was ordained in the Methodist Church in 1925, had pastorates in Colorado, Montana, and Kansas, and preached throughout the United States, in the Philippines, and India. She was a delegate to the General Conference of the Methodist Church in 1920 and 1924, and she worked tirelessly to secure equal rights for women within the church. From 1925 to 27, Madeline was the head of the history department at Taylor University in Indiana. She was a national field worker for the Women's Christian Temperance Union She was president of the International Women Preachers Association, editor of the Woman's Pulpit, the Journal of the American Association of Women Ministers. Madeline was also the author of The White Slave Traffic versus the American Home, The Attitude of Jesus Toward Women, and The Christian Message on Sex. She died on September 19, 1967, in Topeka. Ms. Southard's papers are housed in the Arthur and Elizabeth Schlesinger Library on the History of Women in America at Harvard University. We have asked Reverend Molly Just, who is a beneficiary of Madeline's work and her life, to accept Madeline's award on her behalf.
Good evening. Well, I count it an incredible honor to be the one accepting this award on behalf of the Reverend M. Madeline Southard, who's paved the way for women clergy in the United Methodist Church in particular, or formerly known as the Methodist Episcopal Church during her time. And I'm really indebted tonight to the work of Jerry Wallace, a historian and archivist by trade, who in his retirement has spent countless hours unearthing the untold and sometimes forgotten stories of Southwestern College and her alums. Mr. Wallace discovered snippets of Reverend Southard's story back in the early 2000s and has been a champion for her since. He shared Madeline's story with me and with great joy has created a champion out of me for Madeline as well. So I'm really excited to share some of her life and story with you tonight. And as many of you know, at these annual Hall of Fame banquets, if an inductee is no longer with us, the award is traditionally accepted by a family member on the inductee's behalf. But at the beginning of the year, the college sought to find any living relatives of Madeline's who might be able to be with us tonight, but no living relatives were found. So Dr. Cheryl Rude, who's known for her quick wit and also creative ideas, asked me as a woman clergy person if I would not only be willing to accept the award on her behalf, but to also stand in as her family tonight. Of course I agreed, and other women clergy in our own community of Winfield and alums of Southwestern were invited to be here tonight to stand in as family for Madeline as well. And so I'm glad to offer words of welcome to those women clergy who are here, and those that send their love to her as well. So thank you for being here as we stand in solidarity for Madeline and ecclesial equality tonight. While preaching at one of her revivals, the Reverend Southard proclaimed the following words. She said that God lives in the deeps of life, so move out to where God is, because he made you for deep living. I really love this thought from Reverend Southard because it speaks so truly about her own life. And as a Southwestern alumna, she lived her life in a deeply meaningful way, leaving her impact on the world. Growing up in Rock, Kansas, as Dr. Rude mentioned, Madeline made her way to the Southwest Kansas Conference College in 1891. She attended the normal school, which is equivalent to high school today, to earn her teaching license. However, during her second year of normal school, Madeline changed trajectory, switching from studying teaching to preparatory coursework to prepare for admission into the school's collegiate department. And in the fall of 1895, she started as a student in the collegiate department, determined to become a preacher of the gospel. During her time at Southwestern, she was a member of the college's ministerial association, the only woman in the group, and practiced preaching in various communities surrounding Winfield. She joined the Women's Christian Temperance Union, whose members were involved in a broad array of social reforms through lobbying, preaching, teaching, and publishing. And she also joined the Bell Society, a social organization for young ladies that promoted the development of public speaking and debate. Madeline became an exceptionally wonderful speaker and debater. Just as Southwestern College is today, it also was back then, a place for students to receive a liberal arts education and to involve themselves in extracurricular activities that promote leadership through service in a world without boundaries. Madeline graduated from Southwestern on June 14, 1899, and made her home in Winfield for quite some time as she went around the countryside preaching and evangelizing. Like many of her contemporaries at the time, she also became an ardent prohibitionist, a cause that was strongly supported by the Methodist Episcopal Church at the time. She soon joined Carrie Nation in her anti-liquor crusade and even participated in the famous saloon smashing raids in Topeka, Kansas. When she was arrested with Carrie Nation for the raids, Southwestern students and faculty showed their solidarity with Madeline and Carrie Nation by passing a resolution of support that stated, "Resolved that we, members of the Southwest Kansas Conference College, most heartily endorse Miss Madeline Southard, an alumna of this school, and the part that she's taking in joint smashing in connection with Miss Nation." Madeline supported prohibition in other areas of the world too, including the Philippines and in India, where she encouraged Mahatma Gandhi to implement prohibition. Gandhi replied that he was very keen on it and would put liquor laws out of India at once if he had the power. After time spent supporting prohibition and working with the Women's Christian Temperance Union, Madeline went on to study and earn her master's degree from Garrett Biblical School near Chicago, Illinois. During her time at Garrett, she studied ecclesial suffrage and committed herself to the battle for the equality of women, especially in the church. From her own personal journal, she notes this: "I'm reading in the library on the condition of women in the world in ages past. It's a mystery to me how a Christian God has been able to let a world go on like this. Poor womanhood, how it has suffered, too ignorant often to know that it was crushed under injustice, finding vents for its inventiveness and petty artifices. Carrying the world on its breast, yet crushed under the world's feet. Maybe I can help in bringing in a new day when a woman can be a person and have life's beautiful relationships too. That thought has strongly taken hold of me, and I feel power within me. If only I can make myself industrious to accomplish something." I think that Madeline did indeed accomplish that desire. As a delegate to the Methodist Episcopal Church's General Conference in both 1920 and 1924, Madeline fought for ecclesial suffrage. In 1920, she asked that women be permitted to be candidates for ministry and licensed as preachers upon passing an examination, just as men. She declared that women were fully capable of occupying the pulpit and that more men would come to church if women preached. After the 1920 General Conference, women were permitted to be licensed as local pastors and to perform basic ministerial functions such as baptism and the Eucharist, serving the Eucharist. However, they were not allowed to be admitted to the annual conference. In 1924, the 34th General Conference took place, and again, Madeline argued for further ecclesial suffrage. She presented a resolution advocating that Methodist women be brought into administrative boards of the church, and also that women preachers could be ordained instead of licensed. The latter resolution passed, and Southard herself was ordained as a Methodist Episcopal preacher on March 15th in 1925. However, Methodist women would not be admitted fully into the annual conference until 1956. In addition to her great work as a clergywoman, Madeline was an author, a college dean, a missionary, and a church planter. I have to think that Madeline's contribution towards ecclesial suffrage and the Methodist tradition in particular was a form of great healing in our world. Madeline called the church to consider how Jesus treated women and emphasized his love and compassion for the least, the last, and the lost, especially as we read about it in the Gospels. She participated in a restoration of the image of God on earth and shows us how the whole church body can flourish when every part is made stronger. In my opinion, Madeline did not just tip her toe into the ocean of life, but lived richly in the deep as God called her forth. And honestly, why should any of us here act surprised? Madeline embodies what it means to be a mound builder. The woman that stood on the floor of General Conference advocating for the ordination of women in the United Methodist Church, or the Methodist tradition, is an alumna of this college. I think that I find this interesting, but not surprising. Because of Reverend Madeline Southard, last year in June, I was able to stand on the floor of my annual conference to be commissioned as clergy alongside other women and men. I'm grateful for the deep living of Madeline Southard, who had the boldness to use her voice to bring about change in the church, which consequently brought healing to the world. Amidst her boldness, she was also wise. She understood how to work within her time and space in a way in that which she would be taken seriously in regards to implementing change. Next fall, Dr. Kendra Irons, a scholar on Madeline Southard, will be sharing a presentation about her at Southwestern's annual Parkhurst Lecture. So please know that you're invited to attend as we continue to celebrate this great alumna. So put it on your calendar. She's a great person to learn about. Well, I've wondered to myself a lot how Madeline would react tonight if she were here to receive this award in person. And I think that she would be genuinely humbled and grateful to be remembered as a leader of service at Southwestern. I think she would accept this award with rich joy, and I think she would look back on her time here with good memory and gratefulness, and I do think that she would say thank you. But more than that, I think Madeline would care about all of you and would encourage you to be leaders of service with these words. Gone are the days where we will live in the shallows of life, shallow thinking, shallow feeling, and shallow doing. God lives in the deep. Move out to where God is because he made you for deep living. Those are the words to me of a great mound builder. Thank you.
So on behalf of the faculty and administration, to all our Hall of Famers, thank you. Thank you for your contribution to the world. Thank you for making and helping and continuing to make this world a better place. Thank you for the example that you set for all of us, for our students, and thank you for your heartfelt connections to Southwestern. On behalf of the faculty and administration, to our Pi Gamma Mewers in the back, we thank you for your thoughtful engagement in your studies. We thank you for the risks that you take to put those concepts into practice outside the classroom. And we thank you so much for the promise of things that you represent for things to come. Thank you all for coming tonight. I encourage you, if you have a moment, to walk just across Kirk Drive to Mossman Hall, where the actual Hall of Fame display is, and see that. It's very beautiful. And if any of you here know worthy mound builders that you'd like to nominate, Susan Lowe has nomination forms and can explain that process to you, and we're always happy to hear about people that you think would be worthy of this honor. So there's a lot going on, has been going on around campus, and is going on in the next few days, and enjoy yourself here, and thank you very much for attending.